set.
All right, great. I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Bath Charter Township Planning Commission. It's July 27th, 2021. So first, let's have a roll call. So Taylor and/or Karen?
I can do that for you.
Great, Taylor.
I already have it pulled up. So Dan Kramer.
Here, attending virtually from my home in Bath Township.
Mr. Reich.
I'm at my house in Bath Township.
Mr. Baker.
Attending from office, Bath Township.
Mr. Gutsky.
Here at my home in Bath Township.
Mr. Severy.
From my home in Bath Township.
Mr. Howe.
I am here in Boyne City, Michigan, at a guest home.
Okay. And Trustee Fewens Bliss.
Here in my home in Bath Township.
Okay, thank you. So we do have an agenda tonight. Are there any changes to that agenda as it's been distributed? Hearing none, seeing none. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
I'll move to approve the agenda as submitted.
I'll second.
We have support. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
And oppose the same sign. And that motion carries. Okay, so we have an opportunity for planning commissioners to declare any conflicts of interest that they might have with the agenda items tonight. If you have some conflicts of interest, declare those now. And not seeing any, so let's move on. Before we get to general public comment, though, I just want to take a brief moment to welcome our newest member. Bob Howe was appointed to the Planning Commission about a week ago at the Board of Trustee meeting. So welcome, Bob. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here, I think.
We'll ask you again in a few months.
You bet.
And George, maybe welcome back, although you never really left, but you know, it kind of seemed like you left for a while there, but you're back, I think.
Thank you.
Yes. So first opportunity for general public comment. Is there anyone attending virtually tonight that would like to address the Planning Commission on either agenda items or non-agenda items?
If so, you can raise your physical hand, raise your Zoom hand, or dial *9.
So I don't see anybody, so let's keep moving then. We have minutes to approve from the July 13th, 2021 regular meeting. Any changes to those minutes as submitted?
I have no changes, but I do have a quick question. I went on site to look for those meeting minutes, and what I saw were the minutes from previous. Are they not posted until they're approved?
That is the case.
That is correct.
So where would one find them, or would I have already received them? The tentative minutes.
They'll be in the packet, which is usually available the week before our meeting. So at least by Friday, usually before that.
I must have skipped over it. Thank you.
No worries. Okay, can I have a motion to approve
the
the
meeting agenda at the top, Bob?
Yeah, no,
And,
I've got I read through the packet. I just must have missed the past minutes.
Yeah, it's because it's labeled meeting agenda. I would suggest we label the minutes instead of agenda.
We can do that.
Okay,
Yes, good catch. Thank you.
Yeah.
thank you.
I'll
All
second.
right, Joel. Thank you. We have support. All in favor of approval of the minutes of July 13th, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the minutes have been approved. Taylor or Karen or Nick, are there any communications to the planning department?
I have none at this time.
Okay. No one else? Okay, so we can move on. So we have 3 items under old business. The first one is a public hearing, the proposed Taco Bell at the Meyer Outlot. So I'm going to open the public hearing right now. We do have a number of items in our packet, outside reviews, outside commentary on that site plan and special use permit. Are there any updates to some of the information in the packet or new information that's arrived pertaining to the Meyer Taco Bell? Doesn't look like it.
I would defer to Nick a little bit here, but I read through what I could read here. It looks like an awful lot of this has already been addressed. Is that true, Nick?
Yes, the only thing that I would mention is under the comments, I believe from SCUMA, there's mention that the sewer lead has a small leak. From my recollection, that is something that SCUMA is looking into and looking to see whether or not that's, sorry, I'm trying to scroll to the right page here. Whether or not that's something that the developer would need to assist SCUMA in getting resolved, or if that's something that SCUMA would be responsible for resolving. Not last Friday, but the Friday before, I had reached out to SCUMA and spoke with Jonathan Archer, and he had said that he was going to take a look at it, but unfortunately, before I left employment with the township, I had not heard back from him.
Okay. Thanks, Nick. So we don't have a formal staff report, which is typically how we do this, but understanding this based on the turnover here and the little bit of flux that we're in at the township. So, but can I assume that the planning department, the township recommends approval based on the information that we have received from external reviewers?
I would say so. From my recollection, the only recommended condition was that if SCUMA did find issues with that sewer lead that needed assistance by the developer, that the developer would assist SCUMA in resolving that. And then just from my own personal review of it and my professional opinion, you know, the current site has a few trees on it that are being taken out. The landscaping that's proposed is sufficient in that it meets our current requirements. There still is a decent amount of open space on that north side, however. So if the Planning Commission were interested, you know, I would recommend that a couple of trees be added to that green space, but that's at the pleasure of the Planning Commission. It's not necessarily critical to approval of the project.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Ray, did you have a comment?
Yeah, based on what Nick just talking about for trees, I think they should probably put a couple trees in the parking lot. I know our current ordinance doesn't require that, but there's no trees in that parking lot. The other thing, our engineer talked about the queue for their drive-through. And I agree that could be a concern because they've got a double drive-through and really no queue, no place for the cars to queue in front of it except in the access road. So I think that needs to be addressed because what's going to happen, place where a double drive-through, they sometimes queue up in one lane, sometimes in 2 lanes. If they queue up in 2 lanes, they're going to block the entrance. So they got to address that somehow. The other thing, I think the suggestion was to move that driveway a little bit further east to get away from the driveway into the gas station. I think that, and they got plenty of room to do that. So I think those 2 things they should take a look at.
Great, thanks. Nick?
I was just going to thank Ray for remembering that. That was one of the recommended conditions. I believe it was the township engineer who pointed out that the other access drives in that area and on that property have a 50-foot radius, whereas this only has a proposed 20-foot radius. And so he had recommended that the driveway be shifted so that it could have a 50-foot radius.
Right. And if I recall, yeah, John, go ahead.
Yeah, I've had 3 issues, Dan. I think we need some kind of agreement between the property owner and Meyer for the maintenance of the drive that's going to be a common drive because they're purchasing this property, not leasing it. They're also proposing a drain to go from their property over to that pond that Myers owns. So we would need drain right away for that drain for maintenance reasons. And also some kind of an agreement with Meyer on how they're going to cost share any maintenance to that pond. And That should go with the property, not with the property owner.
Okay, good, John, thank you. Do we have any representative from the development here? Okay. So maybe before we go to public comment, we can hear from the representative. So Mr. Wagner, that is you?
Yeah, I'm with Excel Engineering. We did the civil design for the site design. I guess for the drive, you can't see it on the page, but we were trying to line that drive up with one of the drives in the parking lot so that, you know, if someone was coming down that row, they could drive straight into the site, or, you know, if someone picked up Taco Bell and they wanted to go to Meyer, they could also, they wouldn't be having to swerve to get into the parking lot. So that was one of the things that we looked at when we were putting that drive in. And then I guess for trees, I guess we tried to put trees, you know, on each end of the parking, and then put one for the drive-through also to provide some coverage there. But you can look into maybe putting some more trees along the drive too.
And Mr. Reich had brought up the driveway maintenance agreement and pond drain and pond maintenance. Have you spoken to Meyer about these issues?
We have not been in contact with Meyer about any agreements or anything. I guess for the storm sewer, we're just connecting into an existing inlet that was provided for the site. The pipe across the drive and everything is existing. And then, yeah, we can talk to Meyer and see if they need an agreement or anything for that.
Commissioners, before I go to public comment, is there any questions you have for Mr. Wagner at the moment?
I don't know if this affects this plan in the same way, but when this was to be ZIPS, we requested, the board requested an access easement. And that was a condition of approval by the Board of Trustees.
Okay.
Requested what, Karen?
An access easement.
Oh, easement.
Easement, sorry.
Okay.
And that was an access easement to get to the storm sewer, or?
No.
For access to the property,
Okay.
because it was a shared drive.
I would think they need an access even all the way from Saginaw back to Saginaw. that whole
Yes,
loop.
actually, that's what the ZIPS map I'm looking at shows, is from Saginaw to Saginaw.
Yeah. So easement through the Meyer property.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we can discuss that with Meyer and yeah, try to get them to come up with an agreement that allow the city through the property.
Okay, so let's just check in to see if there's any public comments. So anyone from the public would like to comment on the proposed Meyer Taco Bell, now is your chance to do so.
I don't believe we have any public other than Mr. Wagner at this time.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so let's go back. So it sounds like we've got a number of outstanding issues. Can we quickly, and I'm not sure if Taylor or Karen.
I'm taking some notes.
Okay. Can you read back what you have, or do you want to kind of go over these first again?
Yes, no, I think I can do it here.
Okay.
So SCUMA was looking into a small leak in the lead. We should recommend that if it requires the developer's assistance, that we require that. Recommendation of adding trees to the green space, and then Ray recommended also adding trees in the parking lot. Ray was.
Can we stop there just for a second?
Sure.
And get a little bit more detail? So Ray,
Okay.
are there places in the parking lot you had in mind in particular? Or are you talking about islands, or are you talking about something else?
I think something that will come close to what our new ordinance is going to require, which is 1 tree per how many parking spaces and stuff like that.
Okay.
How
Sorry,
many
Karen.
parking
And then,
spaces is that? 1 tree per how many spaces?
we can refer back to our
Yeah.
new landscape ordinance. Nick,
landscape
do you have to know that? Do you know that number offhand?
Thank you. Yes, I believe it's 1 tree per 8 parking spaces.
Okay, thank you.
So, I'll double check that, but I'm almost positive it's 1 per 8.
Okay, and then was there a recommendation for the adding trees to the green space?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Nick, any kind of something from the new landscape ordinance that might guide us to a recommendation there?
Yeah, sorry, Taylor, I didn't mean to hit mute. If I'm recalling, I believe this is about a 3/4 of an acre site, right? Or no, it's 1.5 acres. So trying to do some quick math in my head here. I'll need a minute to do a little bit of math.
That's fine, I can.
Yeah, no
we can
problem.
Look it up to, whatever the requirement is for 1.5.
Right. And we can
Okay.
provide the applicant with the draft of that landscape ordinance.
Yes.
Okay.
And then Ray had a concern about the parking lot queue because of the double lanes. He's worried it would cause a backup into the common drive. I don't know how you want to address that.
Yeah, Ray, so you did hear from Mr. Wagner, the concerns, the thoughts they had about where the driveway is currently located. So any response to that?
Yeah. As far as where the driveway, as far as where the drive is located, that's not as critical, I don't think, as the queue. One of the concerns is that access right is 26 feet wide. If we've got one line of cars coming in, that's gonna take about 10 feet with, a 10-foot lane, which leaves us 16 feet left. So if you've got cars coming in that don't want to go in the queue, you just want to come in and park, and cars going out, you got 16, you got 2 8-foot lanes, which is really pretty narrow. So one way they could address that would be some striping and also widen that access road in there to 30 feet. That'll give them 3 10-foot lanes or something like that, but widen it to 10-foot would work well. My concern is it's gonna be congested right there, and I know I've been by several Taco Bells, and they're one of the fast food places that's pretty busy most of the time, so hopefully this one will be too.
Okay.
And my concern is getting people in and out.
Okay, so require striping in order to assist with traffic flow, and then widening it, you said to 3 lanes?
Yeah, because you got one of those lanes is going to be used as a queue for people going through the drive-through.
Yep.
Maybe 2 will be, depending on how people decide they're going to do it.
Okay.
Mr. Wagner, any thoughts on the proposed remedy here?
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, the ordering process goes pretty quick. It's picking up food that takes longer. That's why we provide a little more queuing for picking up the food. One of these drive-through lanes is just for mobile orders, which Taco Bell is pushing more. So with there, you're just going to be driving up to the board, giving your name, and then continuing to drive through. So that should speed up the process here. But yeah, we could look into, I could discuss that with the developer and see if they're willing to maybe widen that out to 30 feet for a portion of it.
Okay. And then John and Ray, I think you both brought this issue up of the turning radius. So any thoughts on the drive location based on Mr. Wagner's response, that it does line up with the exit entrance of the Meyer across that service drive currently?
I think that's a good point to have it lined up like that. And I don't necessarily agree with the engineer that it needs to be a 50-foot radius in there, because that's for trucks. That's not for people coming into a fast food restaurant. It's just the proximity of those two drives is pretty close together. But it's really a low volume thing, so I think we could probably live with that.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing is there will be, you know, the occasional delivery truck coming in here, and we have ran the truck turns to make sure that they can get in here.
Yeah, I think we should stay with the 50-foot radius for the semis. We don't want them driving over the curb and the landscaping.
50 feet.
And so that involves moving it just to the east,
Yes.
that drive.
Just
That
the
was
center point of the radius, yeah.
Yep.
Well, I guess the question is going to be is which way the truck's going to be coming in. They're going to be coming from the freeway? If they are, they're going to use the other radius. Because they'll be coming in the east drive.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. We ran it both ways, so. And then I guess they'll be backing out once they come in. So lining up that drive with the Meyer drive allows them to straight back out and then turn.
So I'm indifferent here. I mean, I see the advantages of both ways. I think it does depend on where that traffic is coming from. So thoughts, commissioners, what we want to do with this recommendation, if anything?
Well, I think that if they move the driveway east, then they probably ought to move it about 60 feet to line up with the next the next drive, which they probably got enough property to do that, but it makes that drive entrance longer.
Yeah, and then you're snaking the drive too.
Yep,
so.
you would be. Mhm.
John, any thoughts?
No, I really don't, Dan. I don't know how the trucks are going to come in, and I certainly wouldn't. If I was making a delivery, I wouldn't want to have to back out of there because there's going to be traffic coming in, and you're going to be trying to go out the same drive. I think that's going to be a real issue if you're a semi driver. If it's a box truck, no, but I think most of their deliveries are going to be in a semi trailer.
Yeah, there'll be
But is
semis, but it won't be a full semi. It'll be a shorter truck with, you know, slightly smaller trailer.
So there's no way for them to turn around on site?
No.
So John, that comment, are you saying that you can see some advantage to the current configuration where they're backing up across the service road into the Meyer lot? Is that what you meant, or you just?
No.
No.
As a former truck driver at times, I wouldn't want to be in that situation.
It's a long ways to back up.
It could be pretty dicey.
I mean, it sounds like we can't avoid the backing up. It's just how they're backing up and whether they're turning onto the service drive or if they're just pulling that across into the Meyer lot.
Well, if they're going directly to the Meyer lot, I don't see that the turn radius is even an issue. The issue would
That's
be
right.
when
Well,
they're backing out into the service drive or if they're coming in from the service drive. And I don't know which direction the deliveries are going to come from.
right.
What's the problem
Okay.
with 50-foot radius? I mean, that's pretty standard, I think.
I think the fifth, well, I mean, it's the, from what I understand, it says that getting the 50-foot radius, unless you move that entrance 60 feet or so to the east, so then you have it lined up with the exit entrance to the Meyer lot, you're making these maneuvers a little bit more complicated by not having that open to the Meyer lot.
Yeah, it's a compromise. I agree.
It is, yeah. So I guess unless there are no strong feelings, I mean, I'm thinking we leave it as is, the location of the drive.
Yeah, I don't think the drive location is a deal breaker for me.
Okay.
Okay, so
All
I'm
right, Karen.
removing the request to have the driveway moved further east,
You're right.
but I'm keeping the turning radius at 50 feet.
No, you can't do that.
No, I don't think,
Oh,
yeah, we
that
can't do
Oh.
it with
Okay,
the drive there. So those issues are related. So we have to,
okay,
Yeah, you
so
can't have,
that's gone then too. Okay,
George?
I wondered if someone could share a screen so I could see that. If someone had 2 seconds to maybe show me that. I see it on my, but it's quite small.
Yeah, I could throw it up here.
Maybe Nick or somebody could talk me through it. Just to like
Yeah, I
get a
can
clear
here
understanding.
real quick. It's kind of difficult to fit it all in
Yes.
one view here. Oh, that's too much. Let's go 35.
But now I can at least see the islands. I guess I can't see them on my sheet now. Yeah.
This would be the drive through
Mhm.
the entire parking lot with the edge of the islands right here. And here's the entrance.
So it seems like it is lined up with,
Right.
It would be lined up with a row of parking is what it looks like.
okay.
And that was their intent. But if you move it, then it does create other difficulties, perhaps.
Mhm.
Thank
George,
you.
any thought? Yeah, okay.
No, I just wanted to see, I was looking at the other drive there that's off to the west and wondering about traffic coming up through there, going into that turn. But yeah, I get it. Thank you.
Okay, so I've eliminated the moving the driveway east and the turning radius. The lining up with the other driveway and the turning radius. The next issue was the, I believe the drain right of way. And maybe you were referring to the pond?
Yeah, I think John had mentioned the need for an agreement with Meyer for the drain right away and driveway maintenance agreement
Okay.
and pond maintenance agreement, I think too, right, John?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
We need to make sure those go with the property and not with the owner.
Okay, so with property, not owner.
Do we know if that pond and stuff is 100% Myers, or is that part of the county drain system?
No, I'm pretty sure it's Meyer.
Okay.
And was that it, Karen?
And then the access easement.
Access easement, okay. Okay. And I still don't have any public. I'm going to close the public hearing. And so, commissioners, I'll just put this back to you. There are a number of things I think that we'd like the applicant to work on. We can make these conditions and approve it and send it to the board, or we can ask for some evidence of treating these issues and approve it at the next planning commission meeting. Any
Did you have your hand up?
I did. I just wanted to speak to the recommendation of adding a few trees to the site.
Thanks, Nick.
In having reviewed the draft landscape ordinance that the first reading and introduction took place at the last board meeting, I'm very glad that that clause was added that gives the Planning Commission flexibility on those requirements, because based on the way that that's currently written, it would require, in addition to the parking lot landscaping, which would require 3 trees in the parking lot area, it would require something like an additional 30 trees on the lot, which really kind of covers the remaining area of that entire lot. So I would recommend that if we did ask them to add trees, that we probably not request more than 5 at an absolute maximum. Unfortunately, I'm not with the township anymore to make changes to that ordinance, but that's something to think about as to whether or not that wants to be changed before the board reviews it again, or if you want to adopt it and then go back and make an amendment to it later.
So Nick, just to clarify, the 30 trees, that's based on tree per acreage, is that correct? Or something similar calculation?
The calculation is 1 tree per 3,000 square feet of undeveloped area, and then an additional 1 tree per 1,000 square feet of impervious surface. So just a rough calculation, it came out to 30 some trees, which given the size of the site, and the need for visibility for, you know, this to be a successful business that feels excessive. But again, that's why I'm glad the landscape ordinance language has that flexibility for the planning commission to adjust those requirements.
Right. So we can go with the recommendation of Nick, 5 trees. We have an approved tree list. Any objections to that, Ray? You look like you want to.
Well, you know, there was a suggestion maybe put trees along that access drive. I think that's a great idea, which wouldn't take 30 trees. It might take more than 5. Well, 3 in the parking lot, but I think adding some trees along that access drive is a great idea. How many it would be, I don't know, but it's something that maybe the developer could take a look at that and see what they want to do to dress their site up a little bit, or their access road up.
Yeah, we can take a look and try to add a couple more.
I would agree, 30 trees is too many.
Okay, so maybe the language then is to plant trees on either side of that driveway.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I guess we do have 3 trees around the parking lot right now, so.
Okay, so we've worked through, I guess, most of these issues. I've closed the public hearing. Commissioners, would you like to see this come back to the Planning Commission for approval at the next meeting, or would you want to send this approve it, send it to the Board of Trustees with the conditions that we just talked about? John?
I'd like to have it come back to the planning commission, Dan.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I want to take a look at that access road and the queue for the ordering. Now, having one of those lanes be dedicated strictly to online orders makes a big difference, because those people will be through quickly. As long as that one line is going to be for mobile orders is well signed, so people know that that's not for them if they're going to order on site.
Right.
Yeah, that'll be written right on the sign when you go in. The clearance sign.
Nick?
I have a question related to this. I guess this would be for Karen. Did the County Board of Supervisors have their meeting this morning?
They did.
Did they, I'm assuming they did not extend the state of emergency?
I haven't heard. Usually I speak with Cam Washburn the next day. But the feeling I got was that it was going to be lifted.
Okay. The only reason I ask is because, you know, the applicant will need to make travel arrangements. So that's something to keep in mind as they need to come to Planning Commission in person, and then the Township Board in person as well.
Okay. Okay, great. So we do have those conditions. I'm assuming that Karen and/or Taylor can communicate with the applicant just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Mr. Wagner, any questions before we move on our agenda?
I guess the only thing that I would have to say is about the stormwater and then the access easement. I mean, that's something that doesn't really involve our property. It's more of across Meyer's property. We'll be in contact with Meyer and talk to them about that, but as it's kind of out of our hands whether they allow that or not.
My experience with those things, I don't know if it has been easement, but there has to be some kind of an access agreement that authorizes traffic going to your development to use their private, to drive on that access road. And I know all places I've worked, that's been a requirement. You have to have that.
I termed it that, and that might be the proper terminology, but that's what Zips submitted to us when we required it of them. So, but it was with Meyer.
Okay, George?
Did I just get lost, or were we talking about the sewer and then all of a sudden we were talking about access to the road, to the drive?
Both, I think they were.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, well, if there are no further comments, we can move on. Okay. All right, so we have a second public hearing tonight. It is the site plan ordinance amendments. So I'm going to open the public hearing. You have a copy of that latest draft in our packet. anybody from planning department would like to introduce the topic? And Nick, I know you know this better than anybody.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk through it.
Great.
So for those of you looking for it, it starts on page 39 of the packet. Some of this is pretty straightforward, but I felt that cleaning up the language, just clarifying when a standard just land use permit that's handled administratively is necessary, and then when site plan review is actually required. Cleaned up the language surrounding the procedures, just providing a little bit more clarification as to the timeline, adding some flexibility in terms of the number of copies of plans that would need to be submitted. Because if you all recall, the current ordinance language says 15, and I think we all agree that was pretty excessive, especially in this day and age where a lot of the plan review, particularly by our other reviewing agencies, is done digitally. We also had added language here to add some new requirements or clarify requirements, such as language related to the parking requirements. You'll see there that it's phrased differently and that section of the ordinance is titled differently. That is a proposed title change. So if that does not end up happening, that will need to be cleaned up in here as well. But just added some clarifying language. I believe Ray had proposed some language here for the landscaping ordinance and the utility plan. The landscaping plan and the utility plan. And then also there had been a proposed list of additional requirements as it relates to multifamily developments, just based on some issues that we saw with some prior proposals, I believe in 2020 and probably before that as well. And then the requirement that the applicant would provide a materials sample board that the Planning Commission would have to review at meetings, so that there are no surprises as to what the building materials are or what the colors are. And moving on to the next page here, it looks like this is all language just related to which agencies these plans go to, the process as it relates to a public hearing and Planning Commission approval, and then Board of Trustees approval if it's required. Language about standards for land use permit approval and site plan approval. Those have not changed, I don't believe. And then one thing I had added or tweaked here, I think without having much discussion, but I felt like this was an important thing that we had run into a couple times, would be the proposed section 20.07, which is modification of an approved site plan. If any of you recall or have seen that language that's currently in the adopted ordinance for the township, the determination of whether something is a minor or major site plan amendment is very rigid. And there are, I think, only 4 or 5 very specific examples when a minor site plan amendment can occur. Everything else by default is defined as a major site plan amendment, and that would require going back to the Planning Commission. So what this language has done is it's to determine whether it's minor or major, discussion would take place between the zoning administrator and the chair of the Planning Commission to determine whether it's minor or major in nature. And if those two individuals cannot agree, then the township superintendent would make that final determination based on the available information. I just thought that that was a bit more flexible of a way to go about this than how it's currently written. Certainly eager to hear any feedback on that, so that Bert and or Fee can work on that moving forward. Cleaned up the language here related to the escrow agreement to clarify that the minimum $1,000 needs to be placed in escrow at the time of submitting an application. The current language, I think, is ambiguous, and that will prevent some of the issues we've had in the past. And then I believe beyond that, the language hasn't changed much, if at all. So if anybody has questions or feedback or concerns, I'm happy to talk about it.
Thank you, Nick. Joel.
Yeah, on 2007, Nick, is expediency just the reason you would have this discussion between the zoning administrator and the chair of the planning commission? It seems to me that'll come back to the commission who approved it in the first place.
The way it's currently done is it's determined. I don't think it's very clear actually how it's currently done from my recollection. The one time I've had a conversation about whether or not something was minor or major, I had ended up just calling Dan as the planning commission chair and we talked about it. So it effectively went through that process that's proposed here in the language. But
the convenience of the developer or just?
I would say that that's probably more where it lies, is just not making something get tangled up for more weeks than it needs to. But if you all feel as a group that it needs to go back to the planning commission to make that determination instead, then I understand that.
I'm not sure I'm there. I was just curious. It just, it seemed to me that it ought to go back to the body that approved it initially, but
so we
I don't
did
know
have
who
this
your
conversation
replacement is yet, so we'll see.
We did have this conversation a few years ago, I think, where we because I don't think there were any exceptions at one point. And we wanted to allow some exceptions that just something would be determined a minor site plan amendment. And so they wouldn't have to pay the fee. It'd be a little faster process and staff could basically approve that amendment. So I think the intent at that time was to make it fairly narrow. So in most cases, Joel, they'd have to bring it back to the planning commission. You know, even if you carve out those things, as Nick is saying, you know, it's pretty rigid. And, you know, there may be context important here where, you know, where even if it on the books, it seems that it's not qualifying as a minor site plan amendment, given the context, it maybe would be, right? So I think the intent here is just to provide some flexibility. Even if it went back before the planning commission, however, you wouldn't necessarily need to pay that amendment fee, right? We could have a short discussion at the planning commission to determine as a body whether we think this is a minor or major, and go from there. So it wouldn't take much extra time, you know, depending on where they'd catch us when they submit that minor amendment. But
yeah, it wasn't a deal breaker for me. I was just curious.
Okay.
Just one quick point of clarification. The way that the currently adopted schedule of fees reads, a minor site plan amendment, it has a fee associated with it, I believe equivalent to 1/2 of the original fees that they paid for the project. And a major site plan amendment is equivalent to the fees that they paid for the original project. So as it relates to, you know, the possibility of them not paying fees, that might be something that is worth keeping in mind as to whether or not the Board of Trustees would want to look at reviewing that and possibly changing that language.
Okay. Other comments, commissioners? George?
It does sound pretty good that you know, the people that are in place right now are capable of making a, you know, pretty good determination at this time of whether it is a major or a minor incident, and be able to catch it if it is a major when it just seems to be minor. I'd rather catch it, you know, and know by having a couple qualified people look at it. It's a good idea to take a pre-peek at it.
Other thoughts or other suggestions, comments on the current draft?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Okay, Ray.
2005A. Talk about I just add one thing in there. We talk about architectural design, and it says that, what did I find it here? The type and the third line down, in the type and size of buildings. I think it should say the type and architectural design and the size of the building. Somehow the architectural design has got to be in there so we not only have the type of building, I mean, the stuff down at Chandler Road is the same type as an apartment building, but it certainly doesn't meet the architectural design of the surrounding buildings. And I think that was one of the concerns that I had, at least. We wanted to make sure the kind of buildings that are going up are going to fit with the existing buildings. I think if we stick architectural design in it, that might help.
Yeah, I agree with that. Does it have to be, if it's just design, is that enough? I guess it doesn't hurt to say architectural design.
I think say architectural, because design of the building could be, not even talking about the outside, just the design of the building.
Big, yeah. Okay, George?
Yeah, that's in 2005A, section A, right there? Okay.
Yes. And one other comment I had was down in same section, but I, exterior lighting shall be so arranged that it's deflected away from adjacent properties. I think it should be deflected away and down to kind of make it a dark sky exterior lighting. If you want an example of what a dark sky lighting is not, drive down on Jolly Road at one of the new facilities they put on the south side of Jolly Road down there. The lighting doesn't shine into the road, but I mean, that's like daylight at night down there. So I think we want to have a dark sky criteria here where the lights are shining down.
Is that part of our light plan? I know we don't have a formal lighting plan, I guess, yet, but we've talked about this before.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
There
okay.
is a draft photometric ordinance in the planning folder that I had worked on. It's quite short, just like Meridian Townships is. I believe it has 5 or 6 different criteria. And from just memory, of course, I haven't looked at it in a couple of weeks, but I believe one of the criteria is that the light is reflected down as well as not onto adjacent properties.
Good. I like both of those recommendations.
If we added it here, then it wouldn't be in conflict with that other. It would be in one place where if a developer is looking at this, he'll see it's got to be down without looking at the other ordinance.
Do you have something else, Ray?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, I like both of those. All right, it looks like we don't have anybody, any members of the public here, so I'm not expecting any comments. So I'm going to close the public hearing. So we've got a few minor things, I guess, but maybe just bring this back to the Planning Commission one more time with these minor changes, and presumably next time we're ready to send this to the board.
Okay, can you clarify for me, please? I have modification, major or minor. Did you choose to change anything there?
No, I just wanted an explanation, Karen.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure. So I have the architectural design change in 20.05A, and then away and down in the lighting, which is 20.05I.
Yeah, and that is it. Those are fairly minor. We could approve this and send it to the board with those amendments, those changes. Or if you'd like to have a chance to review it one more time, commissioners.
I'd be comfortable sending it to the board with these minor changes.
I'll second that.
Great, okay. So then let's have a formal motion here. Ray, you want to, the motion would be then to.
Yeah, I move that we send this to the recommend these changes to the board with these minor changes included.
Great.
And I'll support.
Thanks, Joel. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, let's say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Okay, and the motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, so the last item under old business is a discussion of the draft parking ordinance that is in our packet. And I know you had this discussion, first discussion, I think, last time when I was absent. So Nick, do you want to just bring us into this discussion again? Talk about any changes that you've been made since last time everyone's seen it?
Sure. So as you all will recall, the last time we spoke about this, there were a couple of areas where the zoning administrator had been given some authority that the planning commission sort of as a whole determined was not necessary or appropriate. So as you'll note, those couple sections now no longer include language about giving the zoning administrator authority to be flexible on anything. So I believe it was 17.06 and 17.07 and 17.09 originally had included the zoning administrator as someone who could either tweak those requirements or increase them or require a traffic or parking demand study. Those sections now simply state that that authority lies solely with the planning commission, as was discussed at the last planning commission meeting. Those are the only changes that were made.
Okay, thank you. Ray, did I see your hand?
No, but I do have a couple comments.
Great, yeah, go ahead.
In 1707, use of pervious surfaces. I wonder if instead of saying pervious surfaces, we should just call it pervious pavement, because pervious surfaces includes all grass areas and everything else. So I suggest we change surfaces to pavement in the title. And then down the first paragraph, it talks about reducing the number of required spaces up to a maximum of 10. If the applicant utilizes pervious pavements, brick pavers, or other similar materials. I would delete that. I just say pervious pavements and leave it at that. Brick pavers are not necessarily pervious.
Yeah.
And it says for all parking areas on site. I'd delete the word all, because, you know, a developer may come in and say, I want to put pervious pavement in this area, but not the entire area. So instead of giving him 10 spaces, we might give him 3 or whatever, but to make it all is kind of restrictive, I think.
That sentence, it ends and there's not a complete thought there.
Yeah.
Nick, did you have a thought? All pervious materials must be
yeah.
appropriately maintained. in
I
order
see
to-
I brought that up before.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I did write down my suggestion for that
Okay.
would be to say, what did I write down?
It was whatever phrasing John had used at the last planning commission meeting. I believe it was to ensure that they maintained their appropriate level of perviousness or drainage or something of that.
What
That's
I
something
written
related
down
to-
was maintain in order that the original design permeability, okay,
The original design
maintained in order,
is maintained.
yeah,
Okay.
Maintain-
Permeability.
Or how about
Yeah.
something like the original design's form and function?
we're really talking about pervious, the permeability is what we're really talking about.
Yeah.
When you dump water on that, when it rains, that water's got to go down through this stuff. So that's the permeability of the surface.
Okay.
Not just the surface, it includes the entire 3-foot structure they got to build to do this.
Okay, so we are changing it to pervious pavement in the title, deleting after up to a maximum of 10 spaces. It says if the applicant utilizes pervious pavement, so we're going to delete the rest of that sentence. And then pervious, we're going to get rid of all. And say pervious materials must be appropriately maintained in order to ensure permeability is
To ensure the original design permeability of
Permeability.
the previous pervious pavement is maintained.
Okay,
It
pervious
can be
pavement.
maintained in there.
okay. I got it.
The all you've got there is the wrong all, Karen.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
The all leave the all in front of pervious.
Yes.
That
leave
can
it?
stay there.
Okay,
Just-
I'm sorry. I
just-
thought you wanted it gone.
The all in the previous sentence is what I suggested we take out.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
all in front of parking.
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
So the sentence would say all applicants utilize pervious pavements for parking areas on site. All pervious materials must be approximately or appropriately maintained in order to keep the I like Dan's form and function, but I'll stop right there.
Yeah, I think that's simple, and the form is kind of important too. I think, right? I mean, that's just general maintenance.
To keep the original design, form and function. I don't know what you
If
got
you
back
had-
to us, sorry.
Well, just
If
form and
you had
function
per-
and
if you had-
permeability. How about that? We need that word permeability in there.
Form,
Well, I
function.
thought that's function. Isn't that function?
Function and permeability.
I can
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Didn't you get an A in English, Joel?
I didn't.
No
did, I
joke
copied
on
off
drinking
Joe.
water, please.
Nick, I have a question for you under 1709. You probably covered this, I think, but so it says that it can't be approved without acceptance of a traffic study or parking demand study by the appropriate entities. Should such a study be required under the provisions of this ordinance? Where in the ordinance do we talk about the provisions under which we need a parking or traffic study? Just
Well,
so
I
I'm clear.
suppose it would be that same section, so that could be rephrased slightly. And of course, because it's only the planning commission, not the planning commission or the zoning administrator, entities, appropriate entities could be taken out and replaced by planning commission. And then at the end where it says ordinance, it could be changed to say section.
Okay, yeah, that would be a little clear.
Question for you, Nick. Traffic study. Is there someplace else in our ordinances that require traffic studies?
To the best of my recollection, no. It's possible that within the overlay district for the Marsh Road, Saginaw access management, that I believe the Planning Commission may have the ability to require a traffic study, but to the best of my knowledge, there's nowhere else in the ordinance that says anything regarding traffic studies.
It just seemed to me that traffic study in the parking section doesn't seem the appropriate place for it because we don't need a traffic study. We need a parking demand study, but not necessarily a traffic study for parking. And I'm thinking like on Webster Road where we've got the apartment building on one side and the Kessler's development on the other side, I think we need a traffic study there, but I'm not sure where in the ordinance we can require that.
It certainly could be added under special provisions, section, was that 15, I think? And just for clarification, within that overlay district, the Marsh Roads, Article 13, Marsh Road I-69 interchange, M78 access management overlay zoning district. There is language in there about parking studies, but that would of course only apply to that particular overlay district.
Right, I was just gonna go there.
So requiring a traffic study could be added as a new section underneath Article 15, special provisions. That would be really the only other place that I would think it would be appropriate.
It's in the definitions of section 3.02, Appendix A, zoning. The Planning Commission may require a traffic study as part of the special use permit review process.
Yeah, I think it's a strange place to put that. I think it should be maintained, but to put it in the definitions, seems like an odd place to have it.
Yeah, I agree.
Karen, where under the definitions is it located?
Appendix A in zoning, Article 3, definitions.
Right, but what's the definition? Which word is the definition? Is it under?
Let me go there, just 1 second.
It's not under special use permit. I just asked because traffic study is not listed as a definition.
Which is funny because it came up in the search, but you're correct, I'm not seeing it now.
It's under new home businesses. Home business. It's under home business. Item K.
Oh,
under
wow,
home
yeah,
business.
K, yep. I had to go a ways.
Okay, I see that.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's another very specific instance where you could require a traffic study.
Right.
So my recommendation would be you add it as a new section under Article 15, which is special provisions. And that could be pretty short and straight to the point, essentially saying that the Planning Commission can require a traffic study if they deem it appropriate.
Everybody good with that?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I think that's okay. All right, commissioners, any other comments on this ordinance? And what would you like done with it? Want to see this one more time with those changes, or a few more changes than last time, than the last ordinance that we reviewed, or do you want to approve this, send it to the board with those changes included?
I'll
I
move.
guess I'd kind of like to see it again.
I
See it
agree.
again? Okay, easy enough. So let's do that. Karen, do you need any, I know you've been taking notes. Are you good, or do you want?
I'm good. Yep, thank you.
Good, okay, great.
And I just have one thing I'd just like to add related to this and the site plan review ordinance. Because the proposed site plan review ordinance language references this revised parking requirements language, I would recommend that the board see them at the same time, so that we don't have language that's referencing something that's not adopted.
That's an excellent recommendation, Nick.
Good call.
So I'll hold the other one until you're ready to proceed with this one.
Okay, yep.
Okay.
All right, great. So we can move on. We don't have anything under new business. Report from planner.
Actually, I know I don't work for Bath anymore, but I have something.
Report from a planner.
Report from a planner from a different county. So aside from very happy to see you all, I do want to report that over the past couple of weeks, it does appear that there's some landscaping efforts being made at the Noka Loft site. I would say that they've been insufficient, but they seem to be working on them. The thing that I noticed primarily before I left was that the couple of areas where they had pocket parks approved and they did not construct them, they have used machinery to remove that grass and are in the process of putting down what appears to be some sort of gravel-like material for those walkways. And in addition to that, the entrance drive off of Chandler Road, as you'll recall, on each side, they have the stones within a narrow strip. And the terrain is at a fairly steep angle for that small of an area. So those stones often spill off onto the sidewalk. They have had the landscaping crew out there over the past few weeks, putting in a sort of a brick paver retaining wall on each side to try and hold in some of those stones. I can't speak to whether or not that'll be sufficient to resolve that problem, but they're at least aware of it and trying to resolve it. There's been some weed pulling, but the overwhelming majority of the weeds are still there, at least the last time that I was at the property on Friday. And it looks like they're continuing to make efforts there, but again, they're slow going and not up to what we've pointed out as concerns. I'm not sure if Karen has more on that, because I know there's been conversation with legal counsel as well.
Yep, actually Kevin Douglas, our ordinance compliance officer and our fire marshal, went out and met with Cody. I don't remember Cody's last name, I'm sorry, and Rockwood Shepherd. Okay, so they met with Cody and Rockwood. They are completing 2 pocket parks, and they said they have replaced several trees and plants that didn't make it through the winter. And then they went on to say that they previously had submitted plans for carports and would like to get that on the schedule for the planning commission. And a clubhouse, I'm sorry, it says that was put on hold when Nick was still there. We would also like to build the clubhouse on the north property. We submitted it and it included 2 additional apartment buildings that we do not want approved at this time. So they're asking if they can proceed with those.
I have
we
no
have a site
emotional
plan?
reaction to that at all.
We have a site plan in the books for the north property, the north development.
Uh,
And the
Yes, it was submitted, I want to say in April. But
Okay.
that was when we were beginning to have the discussions with them
Yeah.
about their ongoing landscaping violations.
Right.
As it relates to the replacement of dead trees, I had not seen any when I was still at the property. But like I said, that was the end of last week.
okay,
My intention is to be at the property tomorrow to pick up the last of my furniture. So I'll happily take a look. And I'll let Karen know if
Yes.
that actually happened.
I would appreciate that. Kevin met with them on Monday, I think, this past Monday.
Okay.
So,
The only,
yesterday. Sorry,
okay,
I don't know what day it is.
they all blend together, I understand. The only other thing I would add there is, in addition to those landscaping issues, there is an unplated and unregistered Cabrio Properties van on the far north side of the property that's rusting and falling apart. They've previously been notified about this and it's still there.
Okay,
And that's just something that, based on the township's ordinance would need to be removed.
okay.
But,
I'll have Kevin take a look at that.
okay.
And then I'll wait to hear an update from you. Is it the planning commission's pleasure to have the carports and the clubhouse come before you?
I mean, my own feeling is that we think we need complete compliance with the site plan on record before we're ready to do that.
Okay, I can make them aware of that.
Just to slightly add to that, again, not employed with the township anymore, but one concern I have related to the clubhouse is that it's on a separate parcel from the other parts of this development. And I'm not sure how the zoning administrator or the planning commission wants to handle that. Because my assumption is that at some point down the road, given that this clubhouse is being constructed, they likely will ask to build those 2 additional apartment structures. But the clubhouse itself would technically be accessory to the rest of the development. Important, but still technically accessory.
That's a good point, Nick.
Okay, thank you.
Is accessory a legal term?
Yes, it's defined in the township's ordinance. I believe I can't remember the word that we've gotten hung up on before, Bert.
It's incidental and subordinate to the principal use of the property, which is an apartment building.
Okay, thank you.
That's the word I was thinking of, but it wasn't coming to mind.
So Bert, in your judgment, if they build that before and with their intention is to put 2 more apartments on that, is that going to raise a problem? I mean, if they build it first, does that become the main intent of the parcel?
No, I don't
And
think
therefore, no.
so. I don't think so. No,
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, just, yeah, go ahead. I think we're going to get some question.
No, I don't think so, although I think the planning commission should look at a site plan that is phased. Sure, you can do the clubhouse first as phase 1, and we will consider the clubhouse as accessory because your phase 2 is going to be apartments. Does that make sense?
Yeah. We do know that the general phasing of this development has given us headaches in the past.
I know.
Those phasings tend to change, right? So that is something to be aware of.
And I would keep in mind too, that at this time, we don't have the sewer, I'll call it height circumference capacity to endure 2 more buildings at this time, so.
Right. complicating their phasing if they're proposing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The pocket parks that they have started to construct, are they at least size wise, configuration in line with the site plan?
They looked very similar to what was on the site plan. You know, I obviously was not really able to see it from a top-down view, but it did look pretty comparable to what was proposed. I know there were a couple of smaller outdoor seating areas that had also been approved on the landscaping plan from, I believe it was 2019. But you know, last I saw it, no furniture had been added and no landscaping had been added to that. They were working on the actual pathways first.
Okay.
It is possible that if you as a planning commission did not want to treat that as accessory because it's two parcels, it is possible that you could suggest to them that they combine the properties.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
that would take to the two existing buildings. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
To one of those parcels, yeah.
Okay.
And I believe the two buildings are on separate parcels as it is. I have to double check it, but I'm almost certain that they're on two separate parcels.
Okay. Thank you.
When the time comes, Karen, for a re-inspection of that site with the site plan with Kevin, I'd be glad to go out and take Felicia with us so that we can all have a look at that and see how close they got to matching what was approved by this planning commission.
Yeah, and I think that would be a good thing for Kevin and Felicia. Thank you.
All right, great. Ray.
Just one question related to that project. They still don't have permanent signs up out there. Is that one of the things they're supposed to be doing?
Yes, they've had that made abundantly clear to them. A few weeks ago, I did see an electrician parked near the sign, so it's possible he was looking at that, but I haven't seen anything else since.
Is the storage sign, is that permanent?
Yes, it's only the top half of the sign where it says no
canvas.
co-ops is
Yeah.
currently that canvas tarp.
Yep. Okay.
Any additional comment on this? Okay, and we don't have any public, so let's move on to our trustee report. Ryan.
Just some typical board activities that you may or may not be interested in, but I'm going to share them with you anyway. As you all saw, we appointed Bob, welcome Bob, to the Planning Commission. You all saw my email I sent you that day, and you saw the careful language that I chose about what may or may not happen. I was wrong about what I told you was going to happen. So that's why I was not, that's why I added that caveat. So until further notice, George is still with us, which is great. That's what the board saw fit to do. We also did a couple of other approvals. We approved an agreement with the Bath Housing Commission around environmental review for things that they may do there. Apparently that is not in the near-term future for them, but they wanted to have that on record in case that was necessary. Nick mentioned the board approved the first reading of the landscape ordinance as well. We approved the activity that was happening in Cousins Park, adding some bushes, some flowering bushes, which are going to be really nice in coordination with the Bath Museum Committee and the Bath Schools Board. We approved some funding to do a survey of broadband access. You know that there's that group that Trustee Almarigi is sitting on doing the broadband work. They're going to do some surveying, but hire a professional firm to do that. We also approved pursuing Safe Routes to Schools funding from the Michigan Fitness Foundation. So more should be coming, more information should be coming on that soon. And then the Friends of Park Lake is hosting a summer fun day. We approved using the park for that and to do some sponsorship, non-financial sponsorship from the township. And then finally approved a special alcohol license for our friends at the Farmers Market for their Farm to Fork Fall Feast. I always say that wrong. Which is happening in October, which I hope you all will participate in. So not a lot of, flash and boom in terms of what was happening at the board, but I think the board members have had enough flash and boom for the rest of the year.
Thank you, Ryan. Comments or questions for Ryan? All right, then we move on to the second to last item. Any comments, open comments by commissioners before we close? George.
Thank you again, Nick. Appreciate you coming out tonight and wish you the best.
Thank you, George.
I'd just like to mention that I'm happy to be here. I look forward to working with you. I've observed a couple of your meetings. I appreciate the intelligence and the civility of this group, and it feels like an honor to be part of it. So I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. We're happy to have you too. Okay, if there's nothing more, then is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Ford,
Second.
Ford, I think I heard Ray first. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Okay, and we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
You too.
Right.
Night.